Before we dive into this story, please subscribe to this channel. The knife pressed against Zara's throat with enough pressure to draw blood. She stood perfectly still in the marble foyer of the mansion she'd called home for 2 years, her heart hammering against her ribs while masked men searched the house around her. They were looking for something, or someone, and they seemed convinced she knew where he was. "Where is Min-hyuk?" The man holding the knife spoke with a thick accent from Busan. His breath was hot against her ear. "Tell me where your husband is, and maybe you lived through this." Zara's mind raced. Min-hyuk, her husband, the man who'd married her in a ceremony that felt more like a business transaction than a wedding. The man who'd brought her to Seoul from Lagos 2 years ago with promises of protection and partnership. The man who'd never once touched her, beyond the obligatory handshake when they signed the marriage papers. The man she'd fallen in love with despite his cold distance and the walls he'd built between them. "I don't know," she said, keeping her voice steady. "He doesn't tell me his schedule. We don't have that kind of marriage." The knife pressed harder. "Lies. You're his wife. He tells you everything." If only that were true. If only Min-hyuk trusted her with anything beyond surface pleasantries and polite distance. If only the last 2 years had been something other than sleeping in separate bedrooms and eating silent dinners while he looked everywhere but at her. "Search the bedroom again," another masked man said in Korean. Zara understood more Korean than anyone knew. She'd spent the last 2 years learning the language in secret, trying to understand the world her husband lived in, trying to find some way to bridge the distance between them. The man holding her laughed. "Which bedroom? They don't even sleep together. Everyone knows the African wife is just for show. Min-hyuk keeps her around like expensive furniture but never uses her." The words cut deeper than the knife, because they were true. That's exactly what she was. Beautiful, educated, accomplished Dr. Zara Okafor from Lagos, reduced to decorative furniture in a Korean crime lord's mansion. "Maybe we should take her with us," the first man said. "Trade her for what we want. She's worthless. He doesn't care about her. Everyone in Seoul knows it." Zara's blood ran cold. They were going to kill her. Right here in the foyer she walked through every day. Because she was useless leverage. Because her own husband's indifference had convinced his enemies she wasn't worth keeping alive. The knife lifted slightly, preparing for the killing stroke. Then the front door exploded inward. Min-hyuk moved like death given human form. He was inside before the door finished splintering, his gun already firing. The man holding Zara dropped with a bullet between his eyes. 2 more shots, 2 more bodies. By the time Zara's brain caught up with what was happening, 5 men lay dead in her foyer, and Min-hyuk stood among them like an avenging angel. He was breathing hard, his tailored suit splattered with blood that wasn't his dark eyes wild with something Zara had never seen before. Rage. Raw, uncontrolled rage. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough, demanding, nothing like the careful politeness he usually used with her. Zara touched her throat. Her fingers came away bloody. "Just a scratch. Just a scratch." He crossed the space between them in 3 strides and grabbed her face in both hands, tilting her head to examine the cut. His touch was firm, possessive, nothing like the careful distance he'd maintained for 2 years. "They put a knife to your throat, Zara. That's not just a scratch." Her name. He'd said her name, not Dr. Okafor, not my wife in that formal tone he used at parties. Zara, like she was real to him, like she mattered. "I'm okay," she whispered, too shocked by his proximity to form more complex sentences. He smelled like gunpowder and expensive cologne. His hands were warm against her face. His eyes were locked on hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. "You're not okay. Nothing about this is okay." He released her abruptly and pulled out his phone. Rapid Korean poured out, too fast for her limited vocabulary. Orders, threats, demands for information about who had dared attack his home. His wife. Zara watched him pace. This man she'd married but never really known. Kang Min-hyuk, Seoul's most feared crime lord. A man who'd built an empire on violence and fear and cold calculation. A man who'd married her to secure a business deal with her father's organization in Lagos, and then proceeded to treat her like a stranger he was forced to cohabitate with. A man who'd just killed 5 people with terrifying efficiency to save her life. He finished his call and turned back to her. "Pack a bag. We're leaving." "Leaving? This is our home. This is a house that was just breached by my enemies. It's not safe. You're not safe." He grabbed her arm, not roughly but firmly, and pulled her toward the stairs. 20 minutes. Pack what you need." "Min-hyuk, wait." He spun on her, and the look in his eyes stole her breath. "They had a knife to your throat, Zara. They were going to kill you. So no, we're not waiting. We're not discussing. We're not doing anything except getting you somewhere secure before anyone else decides that hurting you is the way to get to me." "But I'm worthless leverage," she said, echoing the words the man had spoken. "Everyone knows you don't care about me. That's what they said before they decided to kill me." Something flickered across Min-hyuk's face. Pain, guilt, fury. Then everyone is about to learn they were wrong. Now pack your bag. He released her and headed down the hallway toward his office. Zara stood frozen on the stairs, her mind trying to process everything that had just happened. The attack, the violence, Min-hyuk's rage, his hands on her face, the way he'd said her name like it mattered, the implication that he did care, that she wasn't worthless after all. 20 minutes later, Zara sat in the passenger seat of Min-hyuk's armored Genesis as they sped through Seoul's streets. She'd thrown clothes and essentials into a bag without really thinking about what she grabbed. Her mind was still stuck on the image of Min-hyuk bursting through the door, the way he'd looked at her, the way his hands had felt against her face. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. "Safe house outside the city. No one knows about it except my most trusted people." He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the gun in his lap. Still ready for violence, still protecting her. Who were they? "Busan gang. They've been pushing into my territory for months. This was them sending a message. By killing me. By trying to kill you." His jaw clenched. "They failed." Zara looked out the window at the city passing by. She'd lived here for 2 years, but still felt like a stranger. Lagos seemed like a lifetime ago. The vibrant chaos of home, her work at the hospital, her family, her friends, everything she'd left behind when she agreed to this marriage. She'd done it to save her father's organization, to cement an alliance that would protect her family from rival groups in Lagos, to be useful, to matter. Instead, she'd become expensive furniture in a mansion owned by a man who couldn't bear to look at her. "Why did you marry me?" The question came out before she could stop it. Min-hyuk's hands tightened on the wheel. "You know why. The alliance between my organization and your father's. That's the business reason. I'm asking for the real reason." She turned to face him. "You could have made the alliance without marriage, could have done a partnership agreement or joint venture or any of 100 other options. But you chose marriage. Why?" He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, quietly, "Because I thought marriage would protect you better than a contract." Protect me from what? From everyone. From my enemies. From the people in your father's organization who didn't want the alliance. From my own people who saw you as an outsider. His voice was tight, controlled, like he was forcing each word out against his will. A contract can be broken. A marriage, especially in our world, is permanent. It sends a message that you're mine, that hurting you means war with me. But you never treated me like I was yours. The words came out sharper than she intended. You barely spoke to me. You never touched me. We lived like strangers who happened to share an address. How was that supposed to protect me if everyone thought you didn't care? Because if they thought I didn't care, they wouldn't use you against me. The logic hit her like a physical blow. He'd been protecting her by pretending she didn't matter, by keeping distance between them, by making everyone believe the marriage was just business, so his enemies wouldn't see her as a weakness to exploit. That plan just failed spectacularly, Zara said. Yes. The word was heavy with implications. It did. They drove in silence for another 20 minutes before pulling up to a gated estate outside Seoul. Min-hyuk keyed in a code, and the gates opened. The safe house was smaller than the mansion, but still luxurious. 3 stories of modern architecture hidden behind high walls and security systems. Inside, Zara found herself in a living room that looked like something from a design magazine. Minimalist furniture, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden. Nothing about it felt safe, despite the name. There are 4 bedrooms upstairs, Min-hyuk said, setting down their bags. Take whichever one you want. Whichever one she wanted, because of course they'd still be sleeping separately, even after everything, even after he'd killed for her and admitted the last 2 years had been an act. Min-hyuk. She turned to face him. Those men said everyone knows we don't sleep together, that I'm just for show. If that's common knowledge among your enemies, then your plan to protect me by pretending you don't care has already failed. So maybe it's time for a new plan. He stared at her, his dark eyes cold and calculating. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop pretending. I'm suggesting if everyone already thinks I matter to you, we might as well make it real. Her heart hammered. She was being bold, reckless. But she'd almost died today, and she was tired of living in limbo. I'm suggesting we try being actually married instead of whatever this has been for the last 2 years. No. The word was flat, final. Why not? Because the moment I let myself care about you, really care about you, you become the most vulnerable point in my entire empire. He stepped closer, his eyes intense. I've already lost 1 woman I loved, watched her die because she was with me, because my enemies knew she mattered. I will not make that mistake again. The confession hung in the air between them. He'd loved someone before, lost her, was still grieving her enough that he'd built walls around his heart so high that even his own wife couldn't scale them. I'm not her, Zara said quietly, and I'm not helpless. I survived an attack today. I survived 2 years of being married to a ghost. I survived leaving everything I knew to come to a country where I barely spoke the language and had no friends and no purpose beyond being your decorative wife. She lifted her chin. So don't protect me by pushing me away. Protect me by trusting me, by letting me be your actual partner instead of just your legal obligation. Min-hyuk's expression was unreadable. You don't know what you're asking for. I'm asking for my husband, the real one, not the stranger who brings me flowers on our anniversary and makes polite conversation at dinner and then disappears into his office for the rest of the night. She moved closer to him. I'm asking for the man who just killed 5 people to save me, who drove me to safety, who admitted he married me to protect me. That man, I want that man. That man is dangerous. Good. I'm tired of safe. Something flickered in Min-hyuk's eyes. Desire, fear, hope, longing. A complex mix of emotions that vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by his usual control. But Zara had seen it, had seen proof that underneath the ice, there was fire. Get some rest, he said finally, stepping back. We'll talk more tomorrow when you've had time to process everything. I don't need time to process. I need answers. I need honesty. I need you to stop treating me like I'll break if you get too close. Zara, no, you don't get to shut this down by saying my name like a warning. She closed the distance he'd created. I deserve better than this half-life. I deserve a husband who actually acknowledges I exist. I deserve to know if the man I've been falling in love with for 2 years even sees me as a person or just as a responsibility he's obligated to protect. The words were out before she could stop them. Falling in love. She'd said it, admitted the truth she'd been hiding, even from herself. Min-hyuk went very still. You love me. Apparently, I'm an idiot who falls in love with men who won't touch her and treat her like furniture. She laughed bitterly. But yes, I love you. I love the man who reads in the library at midnight when he thinks no one is watching. I love the man who makes sure my favorite tea is always stocked, even though we barely speak. I love the man who learned phrases in Yoruba so he could greet my parents in their language when they visit. I love you, Min-hyuk. I've loved you almost since the beginning, and I've been slowly dying inside because you couldn't love me back. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Min-hyuk moved. He crossed the space between them in one step and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was 2 years of restraint shattering into desperate need. His hands tangled in her hair. Her body pressed against his. The kiss was hungry and fierce and everything she'd been dreaming about for 2 years. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-hyuk rested his forehead against hers. I do see you. God help me. I've seen nothing but you for 2 years. Every morning when you come down for breakfast. Every night when I walk past your bedroom door and have to force myself to keep going. Every moment we're in the same room and I have to pretend you don't own every thought in my head. Then why? Because everyone I've ever loved has died. His voice cracked. My mother, my sister, Ji-woo, everyone. And I thought if I kept distance, if I never let it be real, maybe I could keep you safe. Maybe this one time, the woman I loved would survive being close to me. Tears filled Zara's eyes. You love me. So much it terrifies me. He cupped her face in his hands. I love you, Zara. I've loved you since you stood in my office 2 years ago and told me you weren't afraid of me. Since you smiled at me during our wedding like it was real. Since you learned Korean in secret because you thought I didn't know. I've loved you, and I've been too much of a coward to tell you, because telling you meant admitting you could be taken from me. I'm still here. She covered his hands with hers. After everything, I'm still here. Because I got lucky, because I arrived in time. But what about next time? What about the time I don't make it? The time they succeed? His eyes were anguished. How do I live with knowing I put you in danger just by loving you? You live with it by fighting, by letting me fight beside you, by trusting that I'm strong enough to survive in your world. She kissed him softly. I'm not her, Min-hyuk. I'm not Ji-woo. I'm a different woman with a different story. You don't get to punish me for her death." He flinched like she'd struck him. If you're hooked and want to see where Min-hyuk and Zara's story goes, hit that like button real quick. Takes 2 seconds. Helps more than you know. Now back to their impossible love. "I'm not punishing you," he said quietly. "You are. You're punishing both of us. You're letting her death steal our chance at happiness because you're too afraid to risk it again." Zara's voice was gentle but firm. "And I understand. I understand you're scared. But I'm scared too. I'm scared of spending the rest of my life married to a man who won't let me close. I'm scared of dying without ever really being loved by you. I'm scared of what I'm becoming in this marriage, this hollow version of myself who exists only in the margins of your life." Min-hyuk's hands dropped from her face. He turned away, his shoulders rigid with tension. "You should go upstairs. Get some rest. Don't do this. Don't shut down now. Not after finally being honest with me. I need to make calls, figure out who knew about the safe house, make sure we're actually secure here." "Min-hyuk, please, Zara." He still wouldn't look at her. "I just need some time to think." She wanted to argue, wanted to push until his walls came down completely, but she could see the war happening inside him, fear battling desire, the need to protect her fighting against the need to finally let her in. "Okay," she said softly, "but this conversation isn't over. We're not going back to how things were. I won't accept that anymore." He nodded once, sharp and controlled, then walked toward what she assumed was his office. The door closed behind him with quiet finality. Zara stood alone in the beautiful living room and felt something shift inside her. For 2 years, she'd accepted the crumbs Min-hyuk gave her, the polite distance, the careful politeness, the marriage that was marriage in name only. She told herself it was enough, that maybe someday he'd open up. Today had changed everything. She'd almost died. He'd admitted he loved her. The walls between them had cracked just enough to show what lay beneath, and she was done accepting crumbs. She headed upstairs and found the master bedroom. It was clearly Min-hyuk's space, masculine, minimal, smelling like his cologne. Without hesitation, she unpacked her bag into the empty dresser drawers and hung her clothes in the closet beside his expensive suits. If they were going to be married, they were going to actually be married. No more separate bedrooms. No more careful distance. No more pretending. He could deal with it. Zara showered, washing away the blood and terror of the day. She dressed in comfortable clothes and was sitting on the bed reading when she heard Min-hyuk's footsteps in the hallway hours later. The footsteps paused outside the door. She could feel him standing there, deciding what to do. The door opened slowly. Min-hyuk stood in the doorway, looking at her sitting on his bed with an expression that mixed shock and something that might have been hope. "What are you doing?" "Reading." She didn't look up from her book. "This is my bedroom now. I suggest you get used to it." "Zara." "We're married, Min-hyuk. Married people share a bedroom, so either accept that I'm sleeping here or explain to me why you insist on living like we're roommates instead of spouses." He crossed his arms. "This isn't about living arrangements. No, it's about you being terrified to let me close." Now she did look up. "But I'm done accommodating your fear. I'm done sleeping alone while my husband hides from me. I'm done with this half-marriage that protects no one and makes us both miserable. You can't just decide to move into my room." "I just did." She returned to her book. "If you have a problem with it, you're welcome to sleep elsewhere. But I'm staying here." The silence stretched. Zara forced herself to keep reading, though the words blurred on the page, This was a gamble, a huge one, but she was tired of playing it safe. Finally, Min-hyuk sighed. "You're impossible. I'm determined. There's a difference." He moved further into the room, and she heard him unbuttoning his shirt, heard the rustle of fabric as he changed, heard him brushing his teeth in the ensuite bathroom. Normal domestic sounds she'd never heard before. Sounds that meant he was accepting her presence, accepting her invasion of his carefully controlled space. The bed dipped as he got in on the other side. They lay in the dark, neither speaking, the tension between them thick enough to choke on. "I can't promise this will work," Min-hyuk said finally. "I can't promise I'll be good at this. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for effort, for honesty, for you to stop pushing me away every time you feel something real. Real is dangerous. So is pretending." Zara rolled onto her side to face him. In the moonlight filtering through the windows, she could see his profile. The strong jaw, the sharp features, the eyes that never seemed to stop calculating. "I'd rather have something real and dangerous than something safe and empty." He turned his head to look at her. "Even if it gets you killed?" "I almost got killed today anyway. Your plan didn't work, Min-hyuk. The distance didn't protect me. So maybe it's time to try something different." His hand found hers under the covers, their fingers laced together. It was such a simple gesture, but after 2 years of careful distance, it felt monumental. "I'm terrified of losing you," he admitted quietly. "More terrified than I've been of anything in my entire life. Then hold on to me tighter instead of pushing me away." She squeezed his hand. "I'm here. I'm alive. I choose to be with you despite the danger. Stop punishing us both for things that haven't even happened yet." They lay like that for a long time, holding hands in the dark. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't the dramatic declaration of love from movies, but it was real. It was progress. It was the first step towards something they both desperately wanted, but had been too afraid to reach for. Eventually, Zara felt Min-hyuk relax beside her. His breathing evened out. His hand stayed locked with hers even in sleep. She smiled in the darkness. This was just the beginning. There would be more walls to break down, more fears to conquer, more danger to face. But they were facing it together now. Finally, genuinely together. That was worth fighting for. The next morning, Zara woke to find Min-hyuk already up and on the phone in the corner of the bedroom, speaking rapid Korean. He was pacing, his free hand running through his hair in frustration. Whatever news he was receiving, it wasn't good. She sat up, and his eyes immediately found hers. He held up one finger, 1 minute, and finished the call. "The Busan gang has made demands," he said without preamble. "They want 3 of my territories and 200 million won in exchange for calling off their war." "What did you tell them?" "I told them to go to hell." He crossed to the bed and sat on the edge. "But that means things are going to escalate. They're not going to stop coming after what's mine. After you. So what's the plan?" He looked at her like he was seeing someone new. "You want to know the plan? I'm your wife. Of course I want to know the plan." She moved closer to him. "Unless you're planning to shut me out again." "No. No more shutting you out." He scrubbed a hand over his face. "The plan is to strike first. Take out their leadership before they can organize another attack. It's risky, but it's our best option." "When?" 3 days. I need time to gather intelligence on their locations and movements." Zara thought about her old life in Lagos, her work at the hospital, the skills she'd spent years developing. skills that had seemed useless in Seoul until now. I can help? Min-hyuk's eyebrows rose. How? I'm a doctor. I'm trained in trauma care. If you're going into a fight, you'll need medical support. Someone who can patch up your people if things go wrong. Absolutely not. You're not coming anywhere near a firefight. Why not? Because it's dangerous? She laughed. Min-hyuk, they already came to our home. I already put a knife to my throat. I'm in danger whether I sit here waiting or help you end this. At least if I help, I'm doing something useful. You're not trained for combat situations. Neither are most field medics when they start, but I'm trained to save lives under pressure. I'm trained to make split-second decisions. I'm trained to stay calm when everything is chaotic. She grabbed his hand. Let me help. Let me be part of this instead of just someone you protect. He was silent for a long moment, studying her face. You really want this? To be involved in my world that deeply? I've been involved since the day we got married. I just haven't been allowed to participate. She squeezed his hand. So, yes, I want this. I want to be your partner in every sense of the word, business included. It's not just business. It's violence and blood and things you can't unsee. I worked in emergency rooms in Lagos. I've seen plenty of violence and blood. Zara's voice was steady. I'm not naive about what your world involves. I'm just tired of being kept on the outside of it. Min-hyuk looked at her for a long moment, something like pride flickering in his eyes. Okay, but you follow my orders exactly. No arguments, no hesitation. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. Understood? Understood. He leaned forward and kissed her. It was brief but intense, a promise and a warning wrapped together. When he pulled back, his eyes were serious. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met. You married me for a reason. Yes, though I'm starting to think I underestimated exactly what I was getting into. Zara smiled. Good. Keep underestimating me. It's more fun that way. The next 3 days were a revelation. Min-hyuk brought her into his planning sessions with his top people. Let her see the maps, the intelligence reports, the carefully coordinated strategy for taking down the Busan gang leadership. He explained his world to her in a way he never had before. The politics, the alliances, the delicate balance of power that kept Seoul's underworld from imploding into all-out war. And Zara absorbed it all. She asked questions, offered suggestions, made herself useful in ways beyond just medical support. She noticed patterns in the intelligence reports that others missed, pointed out vulnerabilities in their plans, proved that her mind was just as sharp in this world as it had been in medicine. She also noticed the way Min-hyuk looked at her, how his eyes followed her around the room, how he stood closer to her during meetings, how his hand found hers under the table when no one was looking. The ice was melting. Slowly, carefully, but definitely melting. On the third night, they lay in bed together after another long day of planning. Min-hyuk's arm was around her, her head on his chest. They'd fallen into this routine naturally, sleeping intertwined like they'd been doing it for years instead of just days. Tell me about Jiwoo, Zara said quietly. She felt him tense. Why? Because she's the ghost between us. Because I need to understand what happened to make you so afraid. For a long time, he didn't speak. She was about to tell him to forget it, that he didn't have to share if he didn't want to, when he finally started talking. I met her when I was 25. She was a prosecutor investigating organized crime in Seoul. Smart, fearless, completely unintimidated by who I was. His voice was distant, remembering. She made me want to be better, made me think maybe I could build something beyond just violence and fear. You loved her. I did. And for 3 years we were happy. We talked about getting out, about leaving Seoul, starting over somewhere quiet, having a normal life. He paused. Then my rivals found out about her, used her to get to me. They took her, demanded I surrender territory in exchange for her life. I gave them everything they asked for, and they killed her anyway, sent me her body as a message. Zara's throat tightened. Min-hyuk, I'm so sorry. I vowed after that never to love anyone again, never to give anyone that kind of leverage over me, to build my empire so strong that no one would dare challenge me. His arm tightened around her. Then you walked into my office 2 years ago, and all those vows started feeling impossible to keep. Is that why you married me? To keep the vow? To protect yourself by keeping me at a distance? I married you because your father's alliance would make my empire strong enough to prevent what happened to Jiwoo from happening again. The distance was supposed to protect you, supposed to keep you safe from anyone who might try to use you against me. He turned to face her. But watching you almost die yesterday made me realize the distance just made you vulnerable in different ways, made my enemies think you didn't matter, that you were acceptable collateral. So what now? Now I stop pretending. Now everyone in Seoul knows you're not just my wife on paper. You're mine. You matter. And anyone who touches you will learn exactly why I've held power in this city for 15 years. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it sent warmth through her chest. This was what she'd wanted. To be claimed, to be seen, to matter to someone as fierce and powerful as Kang Min-hyuk. I'm yours, she agreed, but you're mine too. That's how marriage works. His lips quirked. Is that so? That's so. Which means no more secrets. No more keeping me in the dark to protect me. No more treating me like I'll break. She kissed him slowly. I'm stronger than you think. I'm starting to realize that. He kissed her back, deeper. This time, his hands sliding into her hair. You're terrifying, you know that? Good. You need someone who terrifies you a little. They made love for the first time that night. 2 years of tension and longing and carefully maintained distance finally shattering into desperate need. It was intense and emotional and perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together, and Zara felt something fundamental shift between them. They weren't just married anymore. They weren't just partners. They were genuinely, deeply connected in a way that transcended business arrangements and political alliances. I love you, Min-hyuk whispered against her hair. God help me. I love you so much. I love you too. She pressed closer to him. And tomorrow, we're going to end this threat together. As partners. Together, he agreed. The next day arrived with the weight of violence hanging in the air. Zara dressed in dark, practical clothes and packed a medical kit with everything she might need. Min-hyuk watched her with an expression that mixed pride and worry. Last chance to stay here, he said. No one would judge you. I'm going. She checked her supplies one more time. We're doing this together, remember? He pulled her close and kissed her hard. Stay behind me, always. And if anything goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. We have a good plan, good people, and good intelligence. She kissed him back. We've got this. The convoy of vehicles left the safe house at dusk. 6 cars filled with Min-hyuk's most trusted fighters. Zara rode in the lead vehicle with Min-hyuk, her medical kit at her feet, adrenaline singing through her veins. They hit the first Busan safe house at precisely 9 p.m. The attack was swift and brutal, Min-hyuk's people moved with military precision, overwhelming the guards before they could raise an alarm. Zara stayed in the vehicle as planned, watching through the windows as the operation unfolded. Then she saw one of Min-hyuk's men go down, shot in the leg, dragging himself behind cover while blood pooled beneath him. She grabbed her kit and was out of the car before she consciously decided to move. "Zara, no!" Min-hyuk's voice cut through the night, but she was already running, crouched low, adrenaline overriding fear. She reached the wounded man and dropped beside him, assessing the injury with practiced efficiency. Femoral artery compromised. He had minutes at best without intervention. Her hands moved automatically. Pressure, clamp, emergency tourniquet. She'd done this 100 times in Lagos emergency rooms. The gunfire around her faded into background noise as she focused on keeping this man alive. "You're going to be fine," she told him in Korean, her accent heavy but understandable. "Just stay with me." She stabilized him enough to be moved, then signaled to Min-hyuk. 2 men appeared and dragged their wounded colleague back to the vehicles while Zara covered the retreat, her body shielding the patient. Only when they were all back behind cover did she let herself feel the fear. Her hands shook as she continued working on the wounded man, but her voice stayed steady, professional. Min-hyuk appeared beside her, his face a mask of fury and fear. "What the hell were you thinking?" "I was thinking he would have bled out in 3 minutes without intervention." She didn't look up from her patient. "I was thinking I'm a doctor and that's what I do. You could have been killed, but I wasn't, and neither is he. Now let me work." The second and third targets went more smoothly. Zara stayed with the vehicles as ordered, but her presence made a difference. Knowing they had immediate medical support made Min-hyuk's people bolder, more willing to take necessary risks, and when injuries happened, Zara was there to patch them up before they became fatal. The final target was the biggest, the main Busan compound where their leadership was holed up. This would be the real fight. Min-hyuk gathered his people for final instructions. Zara stood beside him, no longer hiding in the vehicles. If they were going to be partners, she needed to be visible, needed his people to see that she wasn't just the boss's wife. She was part of the team. "Everyone knows their assignments," Min-hyuk said, his voice carrying authority that made even hardened criminals straighten. "We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we don't leave until their leadership is eliminated. This ends tonight." His hand found Zara's, squeezing briefly before releasing. "Dr. Kang will be managing medical support from the secondary position. Anyone who gets hit, you get to her. She'll keep you alive." The use of her married name, the acknowledgement of her role, sent a ripple through the assembled fighters. They looked at her with new eyes. Not the decorative wife, not the outsider, a member of the team. The attack began at midnight. Min-hyuk led the primary assault team, while Zara set up a triage station in an armored van 2 blocks away. She could hear the gunfire, the explosions, the chaos of battle. Every instinct screamed at her to be closer to Min-hyuk, to make sure he was safe. But she had her own role to play. The wounded started arriving within minutes. Gunshot wounds, shrapnel injuries, 1 man with severe burns. Zara worked with ruthless efficiency, triaging, stabilizing, deciding who needed immediate hospital transport and who could wait. Her hands were steady, her mind clear. This was what she'd trained for. "Incoming!" someone shouted. 3 Busan fighters had broken through Min-hyuk's perimeter and were heading straight for the medical van. Zara looked up from the patient she was treating to see guns aimed directly at her position. Then Min-hyuk appeared like an avenging angel. He moved between her and the threat with terrifying speed, his gun barking 3 times. 3 bodies dropped, He spun, scanning for more threats, his entire body coiled for violence. "Are you hurt?" he demanded without looking at her. "I'm fine, but I have 2 critical patients who need hospital transport now." "Sung-ho!" Min-hyuk barked orders in Korean. "Get these men to the hospital. Armed escort. No stops." He finally turned to look at her, and the raw fear in his eyes took her breath away. "You almost—" "But I didn't." She touched his face briefly. "Go. Finish this. I'm okay." He kissed her hard, desperate, then disappeared back into the battle. The fight lasted another 20 minutes. When it finally ended, Min-hyuk's people had eliminated the entire Busan gang leadership. The organization that had terrorized Seoul for months was broken, leaderless, scattered. The war was over. Min-hyuk found Zara still working in the medical van, stitching up the last of the wounded. He was covered in blood and soot, his suit ruined, his eyes wild with residual adrenaline. But he was alive, whole. "It's done," he said. Zara finished her suture and tied it off before turning to face him. "Everyone accounted for 2 dead, 4 critical injuries that you stabilized. The rest will make full recoveries thanks to you." He pulled her close, ignoring the blood and dirt. "You saved 6 lives tonight, Zara. 6 of my people who would have died without you. That's what I do." She wrapped her arms around him, not caring about the mess. "That's what we do. Together." They stood like that for a long moment while chaos swirled around them. Min-hyuk's people cleaning up, securing the area, dealing with the aftermath of violence. But in their small bubble, there was just the 2 of them, alive, together, changed. "I'm sorry," Min-hyuk said quietly, "for the last 2 years, for keeping you at a distance, for making you feel like you didn't matter. You were protecting me the only way you knew how. I was being a coward." He pulled back to look at her. "But watching you tonight, seeing you run toward danger to save my people, being terrified every second that you might get hurt, I realized something. Distance doesn't protect you. It just means we're both miserable and alone. So no more distance, no more walls. Whatever comes next, we face it together." "Whatever comes next," Zara agreed. They returned to the safe house as dawn broke over Seoul. Zara showered, washing away the blood and smoke and fear. When she emerged, she found Min-hyuk on the phone again, but this time his voice was satisfied, victorious. He hung up and turned to her. "It's over. The Busan gang is suing for peace. My territories are secure. My people are safe." He crossed to her and cupped her face in his hands. "You're safe. We're safe," she corrected. "Both of us." He kissed her softly. "I need to make an appearance at the main house. Let everyone see that we're both fine. That we won." His thumbs stroked her cheekbones. "Will you come with me? Stand beside me while I address the organization?" 2 years ago, he never would have asked, would have kept her hidden, protected, separate from the violence of his world. Now he was inviting her into the heart of it, making her visible, claiming her publicly. "Yes," she said simply. They drove back to Seoul in the same armored Genesis, but everything felt different. Min-hyuk held her hand the entire drive, talked about plans for restructuring the organization, asked her opinion on security measures, treated her like the partner she'd demanded to be. When they arrived at the mansion, now cleaned of bodies and repaired from the attack, dozens of Min-hyuk's people were waiting. Word had spread about the victory, about Zara's role in saving lives, about Min-hyuk's fury when she'd been threatened. They stood together on the mansion's front steps, and Min-hyuk addressed his organization. His arm was around Zara's waist, holding her close, making his claim visible to everyone. "Some of you have wondered about my wife," he said, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "Wondered why I kept her separate from our business, wondered if she mattered. Let me make this absolutely clear. Dr. Zara Kang is not just my wife. She is my partner. She saved 6 of our people last night. She stood with us in battle. She has proven herself worthy of respect and loyalty." His arm tightened around her. "Anyone who threatens her, disrespects her, or underestimates her will answer to me personally. She is under my protection, but more than that, she is my equal in all things. Is that understood?" A chorus of affirmatives, nods of respect, eyes that looked at Zara with new appreciation. She felt something settle in her chest, acceptance, belonging, purpose. After the gathering dispersed, they finally went inside. The mansion felt different now. No longer a prison, no longer a place of lonely silences and careful distance. It felt like home. "Are you okay?" Min-hyuk asked, pulling her close in the privacy of their bedroom. "I'm exhausted. I'm scared. I'm exhilarated." She looked up at him. "But I'm also happier than I've been in 2 years, because I finally feel like your actual wife instead of an obligation." "You were never an obligation." He kissed her forehead. "You were always an impossibility I didn't know how to handle. A woman I loved but was too afraid to keep. And now? Now, I'm more afraid of losing you by pushing you away than by keeping you close." He guided her to the bed and pulled her down beside him. "Now I understand that protecting you doesn't mean keeping you in a cage. It means standing beside you, fighting with you, trusting you." They lay together as morning light filled the room. Outside, Seoul was waking up. Inside, 2 people who'd been married for 2 years were finally becoming partners in every sense of the word. "Min-hyuk?" Zara said quietly. "I want to go back to medicine. Real medicine. Not just patching up fighters after battles." He lifted his head to look at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want to open a clinic. Something that serves our community. That helps the people who get caught in the crossfire of our world. Kids like the ones back in Lagos who need medical care but can't afford it. Families who won't go to hospitals because they don't trust authorities." She met his eyes. "I want to use my skills for something beyond just keeping your organization running." Pride flickered across his face. "That's a good idea. A great idea, actually. We could fund it through the organization, make it a legitimate front that also does real good. You'd support that?" "Zara, I'll support anything that makes you happy. Anything that lets you be the doctor you trained to be instead of just the mafia wife you never wanted to be." He kissed her. "Besides, it's good strategy. Shows we care about our community, builds loyalty, gives us another way to help people." She smiled. "Always calculating. That's why I'm still alive after 15 years. He pulled her closer. "But with you, it's not just calculation. It's genuine. I want you to be happy. Want you to have purpose beyond just being my partner in crime. I can be both. Doctor and partner, wife and professional. It's not either or. I'm learning that." He traced her face with his fingers. "I'm learning a lot of things from you. Like how strength doesn't mean doing everything alone. How trust is more powerful than fear. How love is worth the risk. You're getting soft in your old age," she teased. "I'm 38. That's not old." "Ancient for a crime boss." He growled and flipped her onto her back, hovering over her with mock menace. "Take that back. Make me." He kissed her instead, slow and deep and full of promise. When they broke apart, his eyes were serious. "I love you, Zara. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. Sorry I wasted 2 years being too afraid to let you in. We have the rest of our lives to make up for it." She pulled him down for another kiss. "And I plan to remind you every single day that I'm not going anywhere, that I chose this life, that I chose you. Even with all the danger, all the violence, even with all of that, because you're worth it. We're worth it." She smiled. "Besides, danger keeps things interesting. You're insane. I married a Korean crime lord. That was established pretty early on." They spent the rest of the day in bed, making up for 2 years of distance, learning each other's bodies, sharing stories and secrets and dreams, building the foundation of a real marriage instead of the hollow contract they'd been operating under. As evening fell, Zara's phone rang. Her father, calling from Lagos. She answered, switching to Yoruba automatically. The conversation was brief but warm. Her father asking if she was safe, if she was happy, if Min-hyuk was treating her well. Zara assured him everything was perfect, better than perfect, that she'd finally found her place in Seoul. When she hung up, Min-hyuk was watching her with curiosity. "What did he say?" "He asked if you were treating me well. I told him you were." She smiled. "He also said that if you ever hurt me, he has people who can make you disappear, alliance or no alliance." Min-hyuk laughed. "I like your father. He likes you too, even if he'll never admit it." Zara curled against his side. "He was worried about me. Thought I'd be miserable here. Thought I'd regret agreeing to the marriage." "Were you? Miserable?" "Sometimes. When the loneliness got too heavy. When I'd see you and want you, and know I couldn't have you." She kissed his chest. "But not anymore. Now I'm exactly where I want to be. With a reformed crime boss who's trying to figure out how to be a proper husband. With the man I love who's finally letting me love him back." They ordered dinner in. Ate in comfortable silence. Watched the sun set over Seoul from their bedroom windows. It was domestic and normal and perfect. Later, as they prepared for bed, Min-hyuk's phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at it and smiled grimly. "What is it?" Zara asked. "Official reports are calling last night's events a gang war that eliminated a criminal cell threatening Seoul. The authorities are crediting an anonymous tip for leading them to the Busan compound." He set the phone down. "We're being painted as heroes. Unofficially, of course. That's good for business. That's very good for business. Makes it harder for rivals to move against us when we have unofficial government approval." He pulled her into his arms. "Your clinic idea will benefit from this too. We can position it as community outreach from a concerned citizen. You'll be seen as a humanitarian, not a crime lord's wife. I am a humanitarian, who happens to be married to a crime lord. The best of both worlds. Before you go, if you're invested in Min-hyuk and Zara's love story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you thought about their relationship. That like button too, you know the drill. Your support makes these stories possible. Now, let's see what the future holds for our power couple." 6 months later, Zara stood in the lobby of the medical clinic she'd built from the ground up. The Kang Community Health Center was sleek and modern, equipped with the latest technology, staffed by excellent doctors and nurses she'd personally recruited. It served everyone: gang members, civilians, migrant workers, anyone who needed help. And it was already making a difference. Min-hyuk appeared in the doorway, looking out of place in his expensive suit among the patients in the waiting room. But no one seemed uncomfortable. Over the past 6 months, People had learned that the Kang organization actually kept its word, that the clinic was safe, that no one would be turned away or reported to authorities. "How's the first official day going?" he asked, kissing her cheek. "Busy. We've seen 40 patients already, and it's only noon." Pride filled her voice. "The pediatric wing is full. We have 3 women in labor upstairs. And we just saved a man who came in with a stab wound that would have killed him if he'd waited for an ambulance. My wife, the hero." His eyes were warm. "I'm proud of you. This is all because of you. Your funding, your connections, your protection. This is all because of your vision and determination. I just wrote checks." He pulled her close, not caring who saw. "But I'm glad I could help make this happen." Over the past 6 months, they'd fallen into a rhythm that worked. Zara ran the clinic during the day, saved lives, made a difference. Min-hyuk ran his empire, making it stronger and more legitimate. At night, they came together, sharing their days, their challenges, their victories. They were partners in the truest sense, business partners, life partners, best friends and lovers and allies. The distance that had defined their first 2 years together was a memory. Now they could barely stand to be apart. Now Min-hyuk called her multiple times a day just to hear her voice. Now Zara texted him photos from the clinic, keeping him updated on her patients. Now they fell asleep tangled together every night and woke up the same way every morning. Now they were actually married. "Dinner tonight?" Min-hyuk asked. "I made reservations at that Nigerian restaurant you like in Itaewon." "Perfect. I should be done here by 7. He kissed her properly this time, deep and possessive and full of love. Several patients smiled knowingly. Zara laughed and pushed him away. "Go run your empire. I have patients to see." "As you command, Dr. Kang." He headed for the door, then paused. "I love you. I love you too." She watched him leave. This man who'd been a stranger for 2 years and was now her entire world. This man who'd learned to trust, who'd learned to love openly instead of from a distance, who'd learned that protecting someone didn't mean keeping them in a cage. A nurse approached with a chart. "Dr. Kang, we have a teenager with a gunshot wound in exam 3. Says he got caught in crossfire." Zara took the chart and headed for the exam room. This was her life now. Saving people by day, loving Min-hyuk by night, using her skills to make a difference in a world that desperately needed it. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when she left Lagos 2 years ago. It was better. That night, over dinner at the Nigerian restaurant, jollof rice and suya that reminded her of home, Min-hyuk reached across the table and took her hand. "I have something to tell you." Zara's heart skipped. His tone was serious. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about what you said 6 months ago, about building something that matters, about using our power for good." He squeezed her hand. "I'm restructuring the organization, moving away from the most violent operations, focusing on legitimate businesses and community support. It won't happen overnight, but I want to build something we can both be proud of." Tears filled Zara's eyes. "Min-hyuk, you changed me, Zara, made me want to be better, made me see that power without purpose is just violence. I'll never be a saint. I'll always have blood on my hands. But maybe I can be someone who does more good than harm. Maybe I can be someone worthy of you. You're already worthy of me." She moved around the table to sit beside him in the booth, not caring that they were in a public restaurant. "You've always been worthy. You just had to believe it." He held her close, his face buried in her neck. "I almost lost you, multiple times, and each time I realized my life means nothing without you in it. So I'm choosing you, choosing us, choosing the future we can build together. I choose you too, every day, every moment, always. They kissed, and it was perfect. Not because their lives were perfect or safe or simple, but because they'd fought for each other, broken down walls, learned to trust, built something real from the ashes of fear and distance. 2 years ago, Zara had married a stranger who refused to touch her, who kept her at arm's length, who treated her like expensive furniture. Now she was married to her best friend, her partner, her love, the man who'd learned to let her in, who'd learned that love was worth the risk, who'd learned that protecting someone meant standing beside them, not pushing them away. Seoul's most feared crime lord and the Nigerian doctor who'd tamed him. An unlikely pair who'd become unstoppable together. Later that night, back in their bedroom, Min-hyuk pulled out a small box. "What's this?" Zara asked. "Open it." Inside was a new wedding ring, more beautiful than the one he'd given her 2 years ago during their cold, contractual ceremony. This one was designed specifically for her, a blend of Korean and Nigerian influences, diamonds and emeralds, traditional and modern. "I want to do it again," Min-hyuk said quietly. "The wedding, but this time I want it to mean something. I want to stand up in front of everyone and vow to love you, cherish you, be your partner in everything, not because of a business deal, not because of an alliance, but because I choose you, because I love you more than I thought possible to love anyone." Zara's hands shook as she held the ring. "You want to renew our vows?" "I want to marry you properly, the way I should have 2 years ago if I hadn't been too much of a coward to admit I was already falling for you." He took the ring and slid it onto her finger beside the original. "Marry me again, Zara, but this time, marry me for love. Yes." The word came out choked with emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you. Again. Forever. As many times as you want." He kissed her, and it tasted like promise, like future, like everything they'd fought so hard to build. 3 months later, they stood together in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. This time, when Min-hyuk said his vows, he looked directly into Zara's eyes. When he promised to love, honor, and cherish her, everyone in the room could see he meant it. When he kissed her, it was with the passion and devotion of a man who'd almost lost everything and was determined never to take it for granted again. Zara's parents flew in from Lagos. They watched their daughter marry the same man for the second time, but this time they saw the love between them, saw how Min-hyuk looked at Zara like she hung the moon, saw how Zara glowed with happiness. Her father pulled Min-hyuk aside after the ceremony. "You hurt her before, those first 2 years." "I did." Min-hyuk didn't make excuses. "I was afraid. I handled it badly. She deserved better. And now I wake up every morning grateful she gave me another chance. Now I spend every day trying to be worthy of her. Now I would burn down my entire empire before I let anyone hurt her again." Min-hyuk met the older man's eyes. "I love your daughter, sir, more than my own life." Zara's father studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Good, because she loves you the same way. Don't waste it." "I won't." The reception was joyful, dancing and laughter and celebration. Zara danced with Min-hyuk, with her father, with Sung-ho and the other members of the organization who'd become friends over the past year. She felt surrounded by love, by family, by belonging. This was what marriage was supposed to be, not a cold contract, not a business arrangement. This was partnership and passion and choosing each other every single day. Later, as they prepared to leave for a honeymoon in Jeju Island, the one they never took the first time, Zara caught Min-hyuk watching her with that intense look he got sometimes. "What?" she asked, smiling. "I'm just memorizing this. You. This moment. This feeling." He pulled her close. "I spent so long afraid of losing you that I almost lost you anyway by pushing you away. I don't want to ever forget how close I came to destroying the best thing in my life. You didn't destroy it. We survived. We're stronger for it. We are." He kissed her softly. "I love you, Zara Kang, my wife, my partner, my everything. I love you too, Kang Min-hyuk, my impossible, dramatic, overprotective husband who finally learned to let me in." They left the reception hand in hand, ready for their honeymoon, their future, their life together. Behind them, Seoul glittered with possibility. Ahead, the world waited with all its challenges and dangers and opportunities. But none of that mattered. Because they had each other. Because they'd learned that love didn't make you weak. It made you unstoppable. Because they'd proven that the right partner didn't limit you. They set you free to become more than you ever thought possible. The cold mafia boss who'd refused to touch his wife for 2 years was gone. In his place was a man transformed by love. A man who'd learned that trust was stronger than fear. That partnership was more powerful than isolation. That admitting you need someone isn't weakness, it's the bravest thing you can do. And the Nigerian doctor who'd agreed to a loveless marriage to save her family had found something she never expected. Purpose. Passion. Love that consumed and completed and made everything worth fighting for. Together, they were building an empire that mattered. A life that mattered. A love story that proved even the coldest hearts could thaw if the right person had the courage to keep knocking until the door finally opened. Seoul would remember them, not just as another crime lord and his wife, but as partners who changed their world, who proved that love and power could coexist, who showed that strength came not from isolation, but from the courage to let someone stand beside you. Their story wasn't over. It was just beginning, and it would be magnificent. If you made it this far, thank you for experiencing Min-hyuk and Zara's journey with me. If you loved their story, show some love back. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment, and subscribe so you never miss another story. You're amazing. Until next time.